and thank you for joining us today, Professor Son Sahu. Professor Sahu is an assistant professor at Center for Public Policy, IIM Bangalore. He also holds a degree in PhD degree in quantitative economics from ISI Delhi. His research areas are development economics, labor and political economy, and also economics of education. Before joining IIM Bangalore, he has also worked as a postdoctoral researcher at University of Göttingen. So today's session is going to be about IIM Bangalore's fellowship, which you all are aware of, but we have a lot to learn from Professor, so we hope we'll continue to stay in touch and keep receiving his guidance. Before we start, I would like to share a little about the structure of the session. Professor Sahu will have a short presentation, and then those who have questions, you can raise your hand, unmute yourself, and ask the question. And if somebody is not comfortable unmuting, you could also write down your question in the chat, and those will be answered too. So thank you for joining us today, Professor Soham Sahu. I will let you start now.
Yeah, okay. So thanks, Aditi, for this introduction. Let me share my screen. And by the way, please feel free to call me by my first name. Okay, so do you see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can see.
You can see the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me bring it over here. You can still see my presentation or something else?
Yes, we can see.
Sorry?
Yes, we can see.
Can see your desktop?
Presentation.
Do you see my desktop
Not the PPT, but
not the PPT? Okay, okay. Let me. I think I shared the screen instead of the presentation, right? So, okay, now you can see the presentation, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, what I have done is I have copy pasted this material from the advertisement that is out there in the web page, and we also have a poster. We made a poster, and some of these also taken just snapshot from the PDF files. Okay, so this is like I'm putting in minimum effort in making this presentation. Because this is all public information, so it's out there in the website, so please feel free to go to the website. So I'll mostly focus on conversation. If you have any question, if you have any doubt, anything you want to know, if I know, I can tell you, or I can also come back to you if I don't know the answer right now. I can let you know later. So yeah, this is just a summary. So what is the pre-doc program at IIMB? It's a one-year program which is meant to help students. It's supposed to provide a stepping stone to move into an academic career and to get admission in a PhD program, right? So uh, after your masters, you can apply for this program, spend 1 year. So many of us, we have spent, like including myself, worked as an RA with some professor before applying for a PhD. This is slightly better than doing an RA work, because here you are given a fellowship and you are not working full time as an RA. So you are essentially spending time to build your own capacity and knowledge and make yourself suitable to apply for a PhD program. Right. So so from that perspective, it's slightly better, because you can spend time on your own stuff. You don't have to like work for others. Although a part of the program also involves working as an RA. It's a small part, because we all kind of believe that working as an RA also comes with a lot of learning possibilities, right? So what it provides you is a fellowship of 20, which is currently 25,000 rupees per month, and a house rent allowance. That's as far as I remember, it's like around 8,000 rupees. Okay, so 25,000 and 8,000 rupees, it's like around 33,000 in total. And then you also get around 25,000 rupees or so for as a contingency or book grant, so which you can use to buy books and to maybe if you need a laptop, you can partially fund that using that fund. So this is the benefit you get. I think you also get to you also get funding to go to some conference as an attendee. You need not present a paper. So those sort of supports that usually an Indian PhD student gets, you also get in this pre-doc program. Now, these are the areas we have. These are like the departments in a university setting, but in IIMB, these departments are not segregated in the sense that they do a lot of work, overlapping work, and but for the purpose of this program, you are assigned to one of these areas. Okay, so we don't call them department, we call them area, but they are similar to a department in a university system. So you are affiliated as a pre-doc student in one of these areas. Okay, and as you can see, IIMB is a management institution. So most of these areas are coming from mainstream management discipline. But we do have economics and we do have public policy, where public policy is an interdisciplinary center where, you know, economics is also one part of it. I mean, economics related research and teaching is also a part of it, but it's a separate area from economics. So if you are an if you have done your master's in economics, I don't know, I mean, in this audience, what kind of background you have, what kind of disciplinary focus you have in your studies. But if you are coming from economics, then the most appropriate area to apply to would be economics and social science, and you could probably also take your chances in public policy. Having said that, some of these other areas also do a lot of work which are related to economics. For example, strategy area will also do, you know, some sort of microeconomic modeling and some econometric analysis using data, right? But their orientation will be slightly different from what economists do. Right? So you may want to go to the areas. I mean, if you go to IIMB webpage, you can go to these individual area specific web pages and look at what the faculty members do, what kind of research they do, what kind of papers they write, in order to get a sense of whether that is something which interests you, right? Because ultimately you are going to be assigned to a pre-doc mentor from one of these areas. Okay, so if I apply, I mean, of course, I'm not eligible at this moment, but if I had applied for this program in public policy, then if I get through the admission process, after being admitted, there will be a mentor who will be assigned to me. So the mentor assignment takes place based on the willingness of the mentor to, so mostly the willingness of the mentor to, work as a mentor for this pre-doc fellow. But usually the area also takes into account the orientation of the pre-doc fellow. I mean, if the pre-doc fellow, for example, in public policy, we have some fellows who are applying from say having a political science masters, then probably some faculty member will be assigned who has some background in political science or political economy or related, right? But in most of the cases, this is an area level decision, which as of now is not decided until the admission is decided. Okay, so the first the admission decision is made, and then the mentor is decided. Okay, now what are the target groups? So the basic objective of having this pre-doc program was to make the management academia in India more inclusive in nature and more representative in nature as compared to the society we have, right? So if you look at the current distribution of different or representation of different groups, this is related to social identity to a large extent, and disadvantages or advantages in various other dimensions. So if you think about it from that perspective, then the representation is very skewed. So there is a recognition of that fact that the representation is not reflecting the larger society. And there is, so this program is in some sense an attempt to improve that, right? And to make representation more reflective of the actual society. So from that perspective, we have, I mean, whoever has designed this program and the committee, so they have recognized these particular dimensions on the basis of which selection is made. Okay, so one important dimension is definitely the social identity based on caste and gender. And then we have also recognition for PWD. Then there are some interesting other things that you may notice here. So applicants who have completed their secondary education from a school where the medium of instruction was not English. Okay, so there is a recognition also of the fact that students coming from vernacular medium face some disadvantage, right? Then secondary schooling from a rural area, secondary schooling from a Navodaya school or school wholly owned by the state government, the Gram Panchayat or urban local bodies. Okay, so this is like a basic, I mean, some understanding about what are the dimensions of disadvantage and how you can come up with this. Yeah. And women and transgender applicants, right? So these are broadly the categories on which we evaluate the applications. And there is also, in some sense, an understanding about what is the extent of disadvantage. I mean, I may not be very accurate in my description here, but in a very vague kind of a sense, there is an understanding. I mean, there is an understanding, or there is a procedure to define the level of disadvantage based on these various categories, right? So I mean, if a student has applied who has done the schooling is from a vernacular medium instruction school, then the level of disadvantage is not the same as a person who belongs to, say, SC category. Okay, so there is, I mean, the points are different. So that's the basis of shortlisting and processing this application. And here are some of the eligibilities. You need to have a master's degree, or if you have a 4-year bachelor's degree or some other qualification. So you can go through these details in the application material also. There is a website. I have mentioned the website in towards the end of the presentation. Okay, now what do you do? What do the fellows do when they get admitted in the pre-doc program? So this is very important, I guess. So they take at least 2 courses which are at the PhD level. I mean, they are also allowed to sit in the master's level courses, but the master's level courses, because they are, you know, this is a management institution, business school, whatever you may call it. So the main programs at the master level are MBA program, right? So the way MBA teaching is done is not aligned with a research, you know, a PhD program. So that way, one can take a master's level courses, but the person, I mean, the pre-doc fellow is encouraged to take doctoral level courses. So 2 is the minimum number, but one can always take more than 2. Okay? And also one can audit the courses, which means they can take the courses as a non-credit course. Work for at least 40 hours per week, including coursework. So 40 hours, you can think about, you know, 5 days a week. Every day you work for 8 hours. So it's 40 hours, the standard sort of definition. So in addition to the course, 2 courses, minimum of 2 courses, there is a math and communication clinic. So 2 separate clinics, a math clinic and a communication clinic, which is held in each term. At the beginning of the program also, there is a math clinic to, you know, recapitulate or, you know, equip the students with mathematical concepts which are essential for attending these PhD level courses. Then the students, I mean, then some of these points are common for the pre-doc and the PhD students, right? For example, attend all area seminars and other seminars of interest. You have access to library resources and these are the expectations that we have. I mean, this is a mutual expectation, right? So the student will be able to do literature survey, write a research proposal, present the work done. Maybe there is a term paper which is a writing sample for the PhD application, or maybe the student can student has worked with a faculty mentor or someone else to write a paper. Okay, and there is a workshop towards the end of the program where the student presents this paper. And finally, as you are, so the duration, I think this, it starts in June and it ends in May. So this is the 1 year program. So towards the end, the last few months, you actually prepare for your PhD. You can spend time on writing your statement of purpose and your application package, preparing your application package, and finally apply for the program, for the doctoral program. Okay, so the application to these doctoral programs can be within India or outside India. I mean, that depends on the student and how the mentor is advising and how the discussion is going on. Right? So that's the main thing, I guess. So for this year, the deadline for application is 16th March, and this is the website which is important. If you go to this website, all the information is there, and yeah, that's it. So you can send me an email later if you have any question. This is my email ID. But let's have a discussion. If you have any question or any clarification, if there is any point I should elaborate more, please ask me now.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Okay. Good evening. I have a question. So suppose, say I have two topics in my mind and two areas, as you have mentioned, in my mind, and I want to, go into that area and maybe do a research or something like that. So, but if I'm not able to, like so far I have, seen the profile of all the professors there, and suppose I have two topics in my mind, and A and B, and if A is remotely related to one of the professors there, and B is somehow appears to be close, like political economy and suppose economic history. So I don't think I have seen anyone working anything with economic history. So should I mention that, or should I make my mind about that, or should I go with political economy? Am I making sense? I'm sorry, my thoughts are still
Yeah,
jumbled.
no,
But
I get your, yeah, thanks for the question. This is an important question, and it reminds me that I have forgotten to mention one point, which is, I think so, you know what, I mean, this is like, I'm giving you this information from what I recall. So you should go to this website. There is a PDF file from which I have also taken this, some of these points, copied some of these points, but you should always go to this website and cross verify whatever I am saying. But as far as I remember, you can apply to two departments. Okay, so this is also similar to our PhD application. So you can apply to yes, if there are like department, if you find that there are like professors from different departments. So that's one point, and that other point, but yeah, I'm not sure about it. So you should go to this and go to this web page and check it. Now, I think your main question is what is the application, what is the optimal application strategy? I mean, if you have a question or a topic in mind, which is not related to the faculty members' interest, but you have another topic in mind which is not your first preference, but somewhat related to the faculty preference, then what should you do? That's the question, right?
yes, I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I mean, we are all doing constraint optimization here, right? So it depends. It depends on how flexible you are, and what is the value you put in getting admitted to this program. If you think that getting admission to this program and being a pre-doc fellow, and this applies to other programs as well. This is a much larger, generic sort of a question. If you think that the admission to this program is more important and it kind of offsets the cost of not being able to pursue your first preference, right, then you should probably apply, and you should probably highlight that there is an alignment between your research interest and the faculty who works on these areas. But at the same time, I would also encourage you in this specific context, especially to be truthful to a large extent. You should, in that case, if you have a first preference and a second preference, you should, in the interview or in the SOP, you should mention that this is the area you are most interested in, but you are also willing to develop your interest and spend time and work on the second topic, and later take a decision. Okay. Does that clarify?
I think one can mention both the things, like I'm interested in both the areas. I
Yes,
think that.
yes.
And
Yes.
also, I would like to, I have observed an error. I would like to make that correction. The application due is by March 31st, 2021.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I think I copied it from the wrong. So the last year's poster. Yeah. Yeah, that's why that's why it's important that you go to this link, because because of the COVID situation, some of this information is also getting updated. So so the dates may change later a little bit, and the date of interview, for example, is probably not finalized yet. So you should definitely check this link. Okay, so let me tell you another related point to your question, which is this is a dilemma that many of us face when we want to take an admission in a PhD or a related program, right? So pre-doc is a program which is related to PhD, because the ultimate objective is that you'll apply for a PhD. I mean, at least you are encouraged to. Oh, by the way, so you are, I mean, if you get admitted to this pre-doc program, you can also leave. You can also decide not to be an academic. Okay, maybe 1 year of exposure to research, academic research, makes you completely disillusioned about academia, and you decide not to apply for a PhD. That is also possible. I mean, nobody is like making you sign a contract that you have to apply for a PhD at the end. But of course, everyone will be happy if you indeed take it up and apply for a PhD. So yeah, it was important to put that disclaimer. Now, going back to my original point about how you should think about a PhD program or a research intensive program or a pre-doc program. So, the primary objective of such a program is to train you. And yeah, may I get an idea about what kind of background so do you have in this audience? So Aditi, maybe you can give me a sense.
Background as in economics or non-economics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of us are from econ background.
Okay, right. So then, I mean, in economics especially,
Yeah, a lot.
methodology is very important. I mean, learning methods is very important, right? It's learning tools, learning methods. For example, if you are empirically oriented researcher, then it's very important to learn econometrics. Right? It's just an example. If you want to do micro theory research, then probably you need to take some classes and learn, mathematics, real analysis, whatever, right? So this any PhD program, one of the major objective of a PhD program is that it's a training program. So pre-doc program is also a training program. So at this stage, my advice to you would be to keep an open mind, because often what happens is you get into a program and you then get exposure to new stuff which you probably haven't got exposure to. And this is just a general thing about life. You get new exposure to new things, and then accordingly your interest develops. So don't be too rigid. It is definitely good to have a research orientation in mind while you are applying. Good to have some potential research question or a research area or a topic in mind, which you can also write in your statement of purpose, which you can also talk about in the interview, because the interview tries to assess the candidate's ability to engage in academic research. So if you bring something up, suppose you want to do research on intergenerational mobility or inequality, right? So then the conversation in the interview will happen around that topic, and you will be assessed whether you have interest, you have orientation in terms of going deep into the topic and bringing out evidence or theory or whatever, right? So to have a conversation and to show that you are interested and you are capable of doing research, it is good to have a topic in mind, but at the same time it's also important to have an open mind and make that clear in your application and your interview that you are still exploring different topics and you would be open to engaging in other areas as well. Okay, so from that, now if you think about it from that perspective, that this is a program which equips you with the necessary skill to go ahead in your career, then it may be easier for you to take these decisions about whether there is a alignment between your interest and the potential mentor's interest. Okay. Any other
There are some questions
Yeah.
in the chat. So there is one question asking, can someone from sociology background apply for this program?
Someone from social, of course. I mean, you have to choose the area appropriately, right? As of now, if you have, I mean, so for sociology, someone with a sociology background, the public policy area would probably be the most appropriate area to apply to. So where is that?
So I also,
Yeah.
sorry. Just a follow-up question on that. Do you think the chances differ depending on the department that one is applying to, and how binding is that decision? Suppose I apply not to econ program but public policy, and then is it going to affect the PhD decisions, and or it can be reversed? That is not a binding one.
Okay. So there are two. I could infer two questions. One is about the application itself for the pre-doc program, and the other is later PhD application. Are there two questions?
Yes.
Or, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So see, with regard to the application in the pre-doc program, see, the size of the cohort is very small. So this program started 3 years back, and we tend to admit one student per area. And if we get a very good student, very good candidate, then we probably take two. There has been some exceptions in one of the academic years. In one area, there were like 3 students got admitted because we felt that there was some room to offer these admissions. But usually it's 1 or 2 students, right? So in a given area, and unfortunately that's the case. I mean, we may later as we move to the future, I mean, we may expand the program, but as of now this is the situation, right? So the program is quite competitive. Now, of course, it depends on the competition, like what is the profile of other candidates who are applying, right? So that affects the chance of you getting through the program. And nobody knows, right? I mean, we also don't know how good the applications will be in a given area. So this is something I don't think anyone can help. I mean, you have to take a call, right? You have to, if you think economics is the most appropriate area for you to apply, you should apply to that area. If you think that you have a sociology background and public policy is the only area where somewhat related to sociology, then you should probably apply to that. Now, how, so one particular example is if you are an economics student and suppose you apply to public policy, then how it affects your chance of getting a PhD admission later. Now, in my understanding, it doesn't really affect that much, because this is a small 1-year program, right? This is a pre-doc program, which is essentially giving you time. It is freeing you up from other duties and letting you focus on your PhD application. But in essence, the PhD program doesn't have any value apart from a certificate. Okay, so this is a certificate program. So your degrees in the master's and bachelor's and your educational background will play a much larger role in your PhD application than this pre-doc program, right? This pre-doc degree, I mean pre-doc certificate. Now, how you can strengthen your PhD application, how that depends on how you're utilizing your time. So pre-doc program gives you some free time to spend on your PhD, on preparing your PhD application. Now, if you utilize that time very well, then that is going to help, right? It is not going to, I mean, whether you have spent that time in public policy area or strategy area or economics area doesn't really matter, because what people will look at is the output. Output in terms of your writing sample that you have come up with by spending your time in the pre-doc program, the kind of courses you have done, right? So you are free to choose any course in the pre-doc program. Now, suppose you want to, study a certain thing like, and you have taken, suppose you want to study some, mathematical stuff, then you can take courses which are mathematically intensive. If you want to study, sociology, then probably you take more conceptual, courses that deal with, social theory or whatever, right? So you are free to choose any course offered by any area. It doesn't, you don't get restricted by choosing, your admission to a certain area does not restrict you in terms of choosing the courses. So whatever is getting reflected in your certificate, or whatever you are able to put down in your application package in the when you are applying for a PhD program, is not really affected by which area you are in. Okay. Does that answer at least partially to this question?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
By the current discussion, this just came to me. So, as I understand it, this program is not much about research in future, but more about preparing the person for the same, right? Because that's what it is, a pre-doc.
Yes.
One gets to learn the methods, sharpen his skills, attend some classes, write some samples, get a SOP, and so on and so forth. So it's about preparing for that, and I think is that decisive in the selection of the candidate, right? Is he fit for that training, or is it more about the kind of path he wishes to choose?
Yeah, so that's again a good question. So see, the pre-doc program is very, very customizable. Okay, so that's the good thing about this program, that you are right. It's a pre-doc. It's a short duration time, 1 year, right? And in the 1 year, you also later few months you spend applying for PhD. So it's not a very long program that way. It's essentially trying to prepare you for a PhD program. Having said that, if there is a candidate who is already prepared, right, already prepared to take on some good research, and there is a faculty mentor with whom there is a good match, and the mentor also agrees. So these are all possible, and then in the conversation it comes out that the student is already quite knowledgeable and quite competent to embark on a research paper, right? So then you just write a research paper which can so for example, as a research assistant, so some of you work as a research assistant or research associate some in some organization possibly. So I have some research assistants working with me, and sometimes we work on papers where the research assistant is a co-author. So that is also very much possible in a pre-doc program if the candidate is willing and the candidate is engaging in that level, right? So ultimately, once this admission takes place, and admission takes place based on, of course, the potential of the candidate and the other dimensions of disadvantage, etc. So there is a scoring system and the interview performance. Once the candidate gets admitted, then it is between the mentor and the mentee. Okay. So that way, in most of the cases, it will probably help the candidate prepare for the PhD program, but there is also scope that the candidate engages in more advanced stages of research. Right?
Thank you. That cleared my
Okay.
confusion. Thank you.
We have a couple of questions in the chat box. Would you like me to read those out, or
Yeah,
you have access to that?
maybe I'm sharing the screen. Should I stop sharing? I don't see the chat. Maybe I should stop sharing. Yeah, now I can see. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let me read. So sociology background, I've already answered this. Open exclusively to the target groups. Can a queer individual apply to? Uh, so there was this in one of these points. Okay, let me go to this. See, anyone can apply. Okay, then what happens? I'll tell you what happens. So I showed you these target groups, right? So that target, if you go to the website and if you so let me just copy the link of the website over here so that you can also check right now. So there is this document called admission process, and you will find this list of target groups there. Now there is a scoring system where so we are talking about identity in multiple dimensions, right? And these dimensions add up. So if there is a person who is, and these are in some sense, I hope I'm not being like I'm putting it very in a very sort of naive sort of a way, that if we agree on the fact that there are disadvantages defined based on these different dimensions, then the disadvantages are cumulative, in the sense that if there is a candidate who has disadvantage in one dimension, he or she gets some point. But if there is another candidate who has disadvantages in multiple dimensions, then those points in each of those dimensions add up, right? And then this gives us a score, and finally we select like top X percentage of the applicants. Okay, so I hope that kind of clarifies this question. So you can apply. I mean, if you
Yes,
believe,
so it's like,
yeah, Aditi.
sorry. Yeah, so it's like a deprivation point which is there in JNU also, right?
Yes.
A women and a Dalit women, this deprivation point would be higher for her as compared to a
Exactly.
women from non-Dalit community.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that was one point. Okay, so someone has written going to submit doctoral thesis very soon. Is there any opportunity students to join postdoc in IIM Bangalore? Okay, so this is a different question. So postdoc, I don't know. I mean, there may be, but all the advertisements for these positions are put on the website. We don't have a standard postdoc program, but sometimes in some projects or in some cases, some area may come up with a postdoc program, and that will be advertised. There is no standard sort of postdoc program here. Where so I think Delhi School of Economics, the CDE at Delhi School of Economics has come up with a annual sort of postdoc program, but that sort of program is not there at IIM Bangalore. Yeah, how many intakes? As I said, it's 1 or 2 candidates per area. Predefined number of seats allocated to each of the specific, so that's 1 or 2 as of now. Interdisciplinary background. Yeah, this interdisciplinary background, you may apply to an appropriate area and see how it goes. Good reference. Postgrad teachers or non-academia would work too. So I guess, so this is again a general sort of a question about how references work when you are applying for a PhD or a pre-doc program. I think it's good to, take reference from a person who will write you a good reference letter. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is the person should be able to write specific things about you. I mean, the person should know you and the letter should reflect that. Now, based on your relationship with your, instructors in the, master's program or the degree programs versus your relationship with your mentors in, if you have done some RA job or if you have non-academia related work, based on your relation, you have to decide on that. But if you are applying for an academic position or for a position which prepares you for academia, like a pre-doc program, then it is better to have the letter writer from academia, because then the letter writer will reflect on things which are relevant for academia. Okay, so if the letter writer is from non-academia, suppose you have worked in the corporate world for say 1 year and your boss is very impressed with you and your boss is willing to write you a letter, but then your boss will be able to reflect on certain dimensions of your ability, which are good, like whether you are disciplined, whether you are diligent, etc. But then your boss will not be able to reflect on your academic capabilities, right? So from that perspective, it's better to have an academic letter writer. What kind of questions are asked in the interview? Yeah, so it starts, so the interview usually starts with why you are applying for this program. You have to have a solid sort of motivation, and you should be truthful, because see, ultimately it's also a match, right? You don't want to waste 1 year of your time in a program which is going nowhere, right? So you should be truthful. Then there is a discussion about your research interest, and then there are follow-up questions which will try to assess how much you understand about what you are talking about, right? So if you are talking about a certain area or topic of research interest, then the questions will be mostly surrounding that, and it will be geared towards understanding your thought process around that question. Then
Sorry, just to clarify, so the questions in the interview would be mostly area specific that we have specified in during the interview, and not necessarily going back to the course and asking questions from micro or stats, right?
yeah, it's mostly that's the case. It's usually trying to assess your understanding rather than what you recall, right? So I haven't taught micro for a very long time, and I have very little. I don't recall anything from macro because it doesn't. So if you come to me and ask me macro related questions, I will not be able to answer anything. So that's not the purpose here. So people kind of recognize that. So because I understand that about myself, if I am in the interview, I'm also not going to ask the candidate about stuff from their bachelor's or master's, which is recall based.
Thank you.
Okay, so will we get software training like Stata R? Yes, so you get, as part of your coursework, you also get to learn softwares. I mean, of course, it depends. If someone is interested in say qualitative work, right? So for that person, learning Stata or R is not relevant. So maybe that person may not learn. I mean, you probably do those courses where Stata or R is not required. But if you have a quantitative sort of a background, I mean, an interest, then you'll do courses where Stata R, these things are included. So you will learn. Okay. Master in development with 6.2 CGPA, but didn't have 50% marks. Can I apply? Okay, so this you need to check. These are like standard things which will be laid out, and if there is a very fine point, very fine technical point, I'll also not be able to explain it to you. So you should write. There is another email ID, predoc@iimb.ac.in. You should write, because these are technical things, right? So the admissions office will probably take a call. No faculty member will get involved in those type of decisions, right? These are about rules and regulations. Okay, hostel accommodation facility, no. as of now, I don't think, I mean, in the past few years, there was no hostel accommodation facilities, and I don't think this year also there is any hostel accommodation. So you get the house rent allowance. So usually the pre-doc students rent a place nearby. So there are places nearby where you can rent. It's very near to the campus, and they stay there using their house rent allowance, because there is a shortage of accommodation in the hostel right now. So what is math and writing training? Okay, math and writing training is, this is like a math camp that usually you have in a PhD program at the beginning of the PhD program, where you are taught about the basic mathematical knowledge that is required for any quantitative sort of study. So you will be taught preliminary, say, calculus, maybe there will be a little bit of statistics, basic statistics, etc. And writing, you are again trained to how to write an academic sort of output. What is the structure of that? What is the difference between writing an academic document versus writing for a newspaper? So these things are clarified, right? So to help you prepare for writing your academic dissertation. Opportunity to go for field work, practice knowledge, etc. So this 1 year program is usually not, it's a very short duration program, and then you have to do at least 2 courses. So that I don't think leaves a lot of time for field work. But if you have a project in mind which requires you to do field work, and you think that there is a solid paper which is coming out of it, or there is a solid writing sample which is coming out of it, it will be useful for you to use that writing sample for your PhD application, and doing some field work is necessary, then you can convince your mentor that yeah, this is something you need to do, and you can probably do it. Practice knowledge, I didn't understand what practice knowledge part is, so I'll skip to the next question and maybe come back to it if we have time. What if my work has been in quantitative, but I want to apply for sometime related qualitative, but I want to apply for sometime related quantitative work? So you want to move from qualitative to quantitative. It is possible. You have to work hard to pick, if any sort of change in your training or your skills that you already have need a lot of work. So you should be able to justify why you want to move from qualitative to quantitative work in your interview, and then yeah, it is possible. What is the course structure of economics and social sciences? Are we going to use advanced econometrics tools? Okay. So this is, you have to take 2 courses from the doctoral program coursework. So let me tell you what the doctoral program coursework is. So any PhD student admitted in IIMB has to do coursework for 2 years. And this is a trimester system. So there are 3 terms in each year. So there are 6 terms over these 2 years. And in each term, they have to take at least 3 courses. So essentially, they are doing at least 18 courses over these 2 years of coursework, right? So in any given year, therefore, you have a lot of courses which are being offered in the program. And as you can imagine, I mean, second year doctoral students in economics area in IIMB will definitely do some advanced econometrics courses, right? Therefore, as a pre-doc student, that option is open to you because the course is being offered. So you can also take it, right? So if you believe that you already have basic econometrics knowledge, or you can also follow that. So there is a sequence of courses, right? Basic econometrics is offered in say term 2, and in term 3 there is a course on advanced econometrics. And maybe you talk to your mentor and you decide that this is the course structure or course sequence you are going to follow, and you can take any course from the doctoral course. Okay. Are early bird applications prioritized, and when do we start the program approximately if selected? No, there is a deadline, right? This is like any other in any other program in Indian academics. So you can, there is a deadline. By that time you apply, then you get shortlisted. It's a very structured program. It's not like you apply first and then then it's different for you. It's not like that. Okay, so Akash Raj.
Soham, is there a hello?
Yes.
So there are chances that pre-doc will also be offered co-authorship, but that does not necessarily always happen, right?
Co-authorship, co-authored paper.
That depends on the faculty.
Yes, that depends
Yeah.
on the mentor, right? But so when the pre-doc student is doing coursework, in some of these courses there are term papers, right? As part of the evaluation, one is supposed to write a term paper. Okay, and that course is not taught by the mentor, right? So if the term paper is very good, maybe the student can also co-author with the instructor of that particular course. Okay.
Okay.
So of course you can, I mean, the pre-doc student can write a paper with the mentor, a co-authored paper, or even a solo authored paper. If the mentor finds it that, the mentor hasn't spent enough time, just minimal guidance, so maybe it's a solo authored paper. If the mentor has spent time, it's a co-authored paper with the mentor. The pre-doc student spends time or gets engaged in conversation with another faculty member, it can result in another co-authored paper with the other faculty member also. So the pre-doc student is also free to, of course, this again, so think about a PhD program, right? It also depends on how the relationship is between the mentor and the mentee. But in most of the cases, it's kind of flexible and the student can also work with other faculty members.
Sir, one question. In the application process, we can apply for two areas. Like if I find out that the areas which I am interested in, those professors are in public policy, not in economics, but I am from economics background. So how do I prioritize things in that order? Like since there are two statement of purposes while applying and all. So.
Yeah, so I just checked. So it says, please note that candidates can apply to a maximum of 2 disciplinary areas of specialization. So I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but when you are applying in these two, when you specify these 2 areas of specialization, they will allow you to upload 2 separate statement of purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you should, if that you can check. I mean, if you are applying, you can check whether it allows. But as far as I know, or I think, because we tend to see separate statements of purpose based on which areas they have applied. You should customize it. You should customize it to the faculty members that you have in mind. Okay, but one caveat here I would like to say is that you may not be assigned to the faculty mentor you are thinking as your mentor. Is that clear? So it may well, it's not like so in PhD program, what happens, you have a much longer duration, right? So you get into the program, there is 2 years of coursework, so you can interact with various faculty members and then decide on who you want to work with. But in the pre-doc program, it's mostly decided by the institute, and you are told that this is your, this person is your mentor. So it may well happen that you end up with working with someone who is not the person you wanted to work with.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
But of course, if you are in the institute, you can definitely go and talk to that person and try to, get input from that person or engage in discussion about research.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? So how many people are shortlisted for interviews? These things vary from year to year. This I can't tell. What can be the specific skills that would interest the admissions committee for econ course? I mean, again, as I told you, your background. So based on your academic credentials and how and the academic credentials of the other candidates, there will be a shortlist. And if you are called for an interview, in the interview there will be a conversation, right, about your research interests, etc. and then whoever is taking the interview will assess your suitability for the program. And yeah, so there is no hard and fast criteria set beforehand that, of course there are certain things, like as I told you, how well you understand what you are talking about, your academic credentials, etc. Okay, what are the opportunities? Are we running out of time, Aditi?
Yes, I think just you can take the last question and then
Okay.
we can end the session. If there are more questions, then I will send those to you.
Okay. So what are the opportunities after taking this course, if not PhD? Okay, so this is by definition, this is a pre-doctoral program, right? So as I said, you are not bound to pursue a PhD or apply for a PhD, but you are encouraged, and everybody will be happy if you indeed do that. So if you apply for some other type of job, this program doesn't have any support for that, right? Because it's a pre-doc program. So yeah, I mean, then you have to search for yourself. I mean, whatever opportunity you want to search for.
Just the last question. After this, we can wrap it up. But since this is targeted to marginalized students, from your experience, what would you say that how does it improve the chances of getting into a PhD program, say India or abroad, especially abroad, given that program has been running for 3 years now? So if you could say something about that.
Right. Well, I think it gives the students exposure, because IIMB is a good institution, academic institution in India, so it definitely gives exposure to various things, and I hope that it helps them. I mean, so I have had a couple of pre-doc students who I have mentored, and from the kind of feedback I have got. I mean, at least they say that they have benefited because it has given them a lot of exposure to new things that they have learned. And so the learning opportunity is something that they recognize and they appreciate a lot. Okay. But at the end of 1 year, sometimes the student is not yet prepared for a PhD program. Okay. So then what happens is this program has given them enough exposure and prepared them to some extent or to a large extent, but maybe the student may take another year working as an RA with someone, and in IIMB or in some other organization, and then applies after 1 year. So that is also a possibility.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I think we have answered most of our questions by you. Thank you so much for joining us today. If I get questions answered in this session, then I will direct those to.
Yes, please do that.
Have
I'm
it
happy
pretty clear now.
Yeah, I'm happy to have a one-on-one conversation if there is any specific question that needs to have a chat, or I can also respond to these questions over email. Feel free to write to me. Okay, thank you very much for organizing this. I hope that some of you will apply. Okay, good luck. Okay, so I'll leave.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Yeah.